My beloved child, there is a reason this message has reached you at this exact moment. And before you move even one step away from it, you need to stay with it, because something quiet has already started unfolding around your name. What was recently said about you was not ordinary, not random, and not something anyone expected to come up in that way. A conversation took place when you were not there. There was no announcement, no warning, no preparation that your name would suddenly enter the room. It simply happened naturally in the middle of something else. And in that moment, someone who has been carrying thoughts deeper than they show finally opened up in a way that even surprised them. What came out was not planned. It came from a place they usually keep guarded, a place they do not easily share with anyone. Stay until the end, because something important is building here. And the most unexpected part is not just that they spoke, it is how their voice changed when they did. At first everything was normal. The conversation was light, simple, everyday topics that did not carry any weight. Nothing in the air suggested anything unusual was about to happen. But then something small shifted everything. A simple question was asked about the people who truly matter, the names that return in silence, the thoughts that remain when everything becomes still at night. And right at that moment, the room changed. There was a pause, a long one, the kind of pause that says more than any sentence ever could. And then your name came up. Not forced, not rushed, not accidental. It came in slowly as if it had been sitting there waiting to be spoken for a long time. The people listening immediately felt that this was not just another name in a conversation. What surprised everyone even more was not what they said about what you do, but what you make them feel. They tried to explain it in simple words, something about how certain people leave an impact without trying, how a presence can stay even in absence, how someone can enter the mind without warning and remain there longer than expected. Stay with this because it matters more than it seems. They admitted that lately, even ordinary moments have started bringing you back into their thoughts. A place they pass by reminds them of something unfinished. A sound brings back a memory. A simple sentence from someone else suddenly pulls your image into their mind. What they shared was not dramatic. It was honest, and honesty always carries more weight than performance. They said there is something about you that does not fade easily. Even when they try to focus elsewhere, something quietly returns. Not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily in small moments that no one else notices. And the person listening to them noticed something important. Every time they spoke about you, their tone changed. It softened. That kind of change cannot be faked. It showed in the way they slowed down before saying your name again. It showed in how they looked away for a moment, as if searching for words that felt safe enough to say out loud. Not everything is easy for them to admit. Some feelings become difficult precisely because they are real. Stay until the end, because the strongest moment came later, when they thought no one was paying full attention. They said they never expected one person to stay in their thoughts for this long. That one sentence changed the entire atmosphere. Not because it sounded dramatic, but because it came out completely honest, without effort, without trying to impress anyone. And once honesty starts, it rarely stops there. They began recalling small details connected to you that never fully left their memory. A tone in your voice, a way you responded in a certain moment, an energy you carried that stayed with them longer than many louder experiences in their life. This is something you need to understand carefully. People do not remember details unless something inside them decides those details matter. And clearly something inside them decided that you matter in a way they did not fully admit before. While they were speaking, someone asked a direct question. Why now? Why are you talking about this at this moment? There was another pause. A deeper silence this time. Because some answers are not hard to say because they are confusing, but because they are true in a way that is difficult to explain. And then the answer came. Sometimes distance makes hidden thoughts louder. That was what they said. Not because they rehearsed it, but because it came naturally. Distance often reveals what closeness hides. When everything becomes quiet, what remains in the mind becomes clearer. The conversation slowly went deeper. After that, they admitted there were moments when they almost reached out. Moments when they almost said more. moments when they almost allowed honesty to come forward earlier. But something always held them back, not because the feeling was not there, but because timing felt uncertain. Stay with this, because something important follows. They said your name has recently started to feel different in their mind, stronger, clearer, harder to ignore. That is not something people say casually. It usually means something inside them has changed without them fully realizing it. They also revealed something else. They have been replaying one specific memory connected to you. Not many details were shared, but the way they spoke about it made it clear that this memory is still very alive for them. When someone protects a memory like that, it means it still carries emotional weight. The listener then asked something simple. Do you believe some people come back into our thoughts for a reason? Again there was silence, and then carefully chosen words followed. Some connections do not disappear even when life gets busy. That line did not feel like a casual thought. It felt like something they had learned through experience. Something tested over time. They admitted they tried not to think too deeply before, but recently that has become harder. Something keeps returning quietly, repeatedly, without permission. And perhaps the most surprising part is this. They are beginning to wonder if what they once ignored deserves attention now. That one realization changed the entire feeling in the room, because it means something that was once pushed aside is no longer staying silent inside them. They described you as someone whose impact was understood late, not immediately. That kind of presence is rare. Some people are noticed quickly and forgotten quickly. Others are understood slowly and remembered for a long time. And when they said that, there was a small pause followed by a quiet smile they did not even notice. The kind of smile that appears when a memory feels real again. It cannot be forced. It happens on its own, when something inside feels genuine. Stay until the end, because what was said next carries even deeper meaning. Before the conversation ended, they said something very softly, almost under their breath. Some people enter your life quietly, but stay louder in your thoughts than many who arrived with noise. That line was not repeated. It did not need to be. Everyone heard it the first time. After that, they went quiet again, as if they had already said more than they planned to reveal. Sometimes the deepest truths only come out once, only briefly, only when the heart stops trying to protect everything at once. And what was shared about you was not casual admiration. It was not empty conversation. It was something more real than that. So if this message has reached you, understand this clearly. Your name has recently carried weight in places you cannot see. Your presence has entered conversations you were not part of. And what was said was deeper, softer, and more meaningful than anyone expected. Do not skip what comes next, because this is not the end. Something is still unfolding quietly, and once your name was spoken openly, something shifted. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of thoughts that were still being processed. They did not immediately move on. They stayed in that moment, almost surprised by how much had already come out. And when someone asked again why this still matters now, they answered in a way that made everyone listen more carefully. Lately, there has been a feeling they cannot fully explain. Thoughts about you arrive without warning, especially during quiet moments, not once in a while, but repeatedly. Ordinary things suddenly connect back to you. A sound, a place, a passing moment, all bring you back into focus. And every time it happens, there is a pause inside them, a moment of stillness. That pause is important because people only pause when something reaches deeper than expected. They admitted there are things they never said when they had the chance. Not because the words did not exist, but because timing felt uncertain and emotions were harder to explain than they seemed. And then they said something even more important. Sometimes, silence protects feelings until those feelings become too strong to ignore. After that, everything in the room became still, because it sounded like something learned through experience, not imagination. It meant they had been carrying more than they ever openly showed. When asked if they regretted not saying more earlier, they did not answer quickly. That silence itself gave the answer. Then slowly they admitted, there are moments they replay in their mind and wonder if some things should have been expressed differently, and this is where everything became unforgettable. They mentioned a specific detail about you that still stays with them, the calm way you speak when others expect noise, the way you leave an impression without trying, a presence that does not demand attention but still receives it naturally. That quality is rare, very rare, because many people are noticed and forgotten quickly, but some people are understood slowly and remembered for a long time. And when they said that, they looked away again, as if even saying it out loud felt like revealing too much. Then something deeper followed. They realized that not everyone brings peace just by being remembered, but thoughts connected to you somehow do exactly that. That surprised the listener, because that kind of statement is never casual. It comes from something real. And then they were asked if they think you know any of this. They smiled slightly and said no, and maybe that is why it still feels unfinished. That word, unfinished, stayed in the air longer than anything else, because unfinished thoughts do not disappear easily. They remain alive in the background of the mind. There are times they almost reach out mentally, then stop themselves. Times when your name appears in thought without warning. Times when they wonder if some connections stay alive, even without words. That is not simple memory. That is emotional presence. And emotional presence does not fade just because time passes. Then they shared something deeper. There is a difference between forgetting someone and staying quiet about them. That difference changed the entire meaning of the conversation, because silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes, silence means something became too meaningful to speak lightly about. When asked when they first realized this mattered, they answered softly that it was when even small things started reminding them. That is how it begins, small reminders that appear naturally. No effort, no search, just sudden moments that bring everything back. A place, a sentence, a song, a moment of stillness. And suddenly your presence returns again, not loudly but clearly enough to be felt. And that is where everything stands now, still unfolding in silence. And honesty always reaches deeper than dramatic words. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. And the strongest sentence of all arrived near the end of that conversation, before everything shifted back to ordinary topics. They quietly said this: "Some people stay important even when life becomes crowded." That sentence did not need explanation. Everyone understood because importance that survives distraction is real. Importance that remains after time passes is rare. And when they finished saying it, there was another silence. But this one felt different. Not uncertain, not uncomfortable. It felt like someone had finally allowed truth to breathe. And perhaps the most surprising part was this. After speaking openly, they looked lighter, as if saying your name honestly had removed something heavy they had carried quietly. That means those thoughts were waiting to be spoken. It means your name has been living in places deeper than ordinary conversation reaches. Don't skip, because this story is still unfolding, and what comes next may reveal even more than what has already been said. Because once someone begins speaking honestly about what they tried to keep hidden, it rarely ends in just one conversation. Sometimes one honest sentence opens a door that had been closed for a very long time, and right now that door may already be opening. What makes this even more extraordinary is that the conversation did not end when everyone thought it had already revealed enough, because after a brief silence, your person returned to your name again without anyone asking them to. That alone mattered, because when someone circles back to the same person after the subject could have already passed, it means the thought was never truly finished inside them. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you, and what happened next carried a depth no one in that room expected. They leaned slightly forward and spoke more quietly than before, almost as if the next words were not meant for everyone, but they still came out clearly enough for all to hear. They admitted that recently there has been a growing sense that something connected to you has remained unfinished in their heart. Even though they tried for a long time to convince themselves that life had already moved forward, that confession changed the mood immediately, because unfinished feelings do not return unless they still hold meaning. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. And the strongest part of what they shared came through details they did not even realize they were revealing. They began talking about how certain memories involving you have stayed unusually sharp. Not dramatic memories, not loud moments, but small ones. The quiet ones people usually forget. A certain look, a short sentence, a moment where nothing extraordinary happened, yet somehow it stayed untouched by time. That is important because meaningful hearts do not value only big events. They keep the small ones alive. And if small details remain alive, it means something deeper kept protecting them. They said that lately those memories have returned with unexpected clarity, almost as if something inside them has been asking them to look again at what they once overlooked. One listener asked, "Why do you think that is happening now?" The answer came slowly, because some things only become clear after distance. That sentence held remarkable honesty. Distance often removes noise and reveals what mattered quietly all along. Don't skip, because the next words surprised even the person speaking them. They admitted there were moments when they tried to replace those thoughts with distractions. But every time life became quiet again, the same reflection returned. Your presence had left a deeper mark than they had admitted before. That is not ordinary remembrance. That is emotional recognition arriving late, but arriving strongly. Something huge is waiting for you, because what they said next felt almost impossible to ignore. They described you as someone whose energy remained calm in memory, even after everything around life became complicated. Not everyone receives that kind of description. Many names fade under pressure. Many impressions weaken with time. But they said your impressions stayed clear. Clear enough that even now your name carries the same quiet weight it once did. Stay till the end, because what came after that revealed even more than they intended. Someone asked if they had ever nearly sent a message. There was an immediate pause, so obvious that everyone understood the answer before words came. Then they smiled slightly and admitted there had been more than one moment when they almost did, but stopped because they did not know how such honesty would be received. That means thought had already moved toward action, even if unfinished, even if delayed. And delayed feelings often become stronger because they remain unspoken too long. Don't skip, because this next part matters deeply. They explained that sometimes the strongest thoughts arrive at unexpected hours, late moments, silent mornings, ordinary afternoons when nothing dramatic is happening, and suddenly your name appears again, as if it belongs naturally in the center of attention. That surprised the listener, who then asked the question no one expected. Do you think this connection ever truly left? The answer came so quietly it almost disappeared. No, I think it only became silent. That sentence changed everything, because silence is not disappearance. Silence often means the feeling moved deeper, and when feelings move deeper, they become harder to dismiss. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. And one of the most powerful truths came immediately after. They admitted they recently heard something small, a phrase someone else said that instantly reminded them of you. And what surprised them most was how quickly emotion returned with that memory. That kind of reaction cannot be forced. It happens only when something inside still responds naturally. Then they added another line that no one in that room forgot. Some people leave quietly, but they do not leave empty space. That sentence was about you. Everyone understood that immediately because empty space means absence. But meaningful people leave presence behind, even when physically distant. And according to what they shared, your presence still exists where they least expected it. Don't skip now, because the conversation reached an even deeper moment when they began speaking about timing. They said, maybe certain truths are understood only after enough time has passed for pride, confusion, and fear to become weaker than honesty. That sentence revealed growth, because honesty usually arrives when someone becomes tired of hiding what they already know. And what they now seem to know is this: your impact did not disappear. Your memory did not fade. Your name still carries feeling. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the final part of that conversation felt almost like a truth spoken to themselves rather than to anyone else. Before the topic changed, they looked down briefly and said, some people are remembered because of what happened. Others are remembered because of how they made you feel. That line stayed in the room long after they finished speaking, because everyone listening understood that feelings are harder to forget than events. Events fade, feelings remain. And if they connected your name to feeling rather than memory alone, that means something still lives beneath the surface. Stay till the end because this unfolding story is not complete yet. A name repeated with care, a silence filled with unfinished thoughts, a confession hidden inside calm sentences. All of it points to one truth. What they recently shared about you came from somewhere real, somewhere they may have tried to silence before, but cannot fully silence now. And once truth begins finding its voice, it rarely chooses only one moment to appear. What no one expected is that after everything already spoken, your person gave one final reflection that sounded simple on the surface, but carried the deepest meaning of the entire conversation. They did not raise their voice. They did not try to make the moment dramatic. Yet, everyone listening understood immediately that these words came from somewhere they had protected for a long time. Don't skip because something huge is waiting for you. And this part reveals why your name stayed in that conversation longer than anyone imagined. They said there are certain people whose presence becomes clearer only after silence creates enough space to understand them properly. That sentence was slow, careful, almost as if every word had already been tested inside their mind before being allowed to come out. And then they added something even more surprising. Sometimes you only realize the value of someone when ordinary days begin to feel incomplete without the thought of them appearing somewhere unexpectedly. That line changed everything again, because ordinary days reveal truth better than emotional moments do.